today may be the day the Supreme Court rules on President Obama's health care reform and decides whether or not a huge chunk of it and a huge chunk of his legislative record gets wiped out. With me now, Republican Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. Thanks for coming on set.
Good to be with you.
Well, let me start with the biggest what if. If some parts of it get struck down, either the whole law or the mandate itself. I mean, we know what the Republican plan is if it gets upheld. You have said, you know, regardless what the courts do, we know that. Give me some idea of what the replace looks like. I always hear the repeal talking point. What does the replace look like? When you guys say replace, what does that mean?
Well, and you know, one thing to bear in mind, we in the House have already voted to repeal Obamacare.
I understand that.
So
tell me
we're
what the
ready to move forward.
Tell me what the replace
is going to, you're going to see us focus on a few things. Number one, increasing choice and options. Decreasing cost and mandates would be number two. Number three would be simplifying the system for patients and providers. Number four is restoring the cuts that were made to Medicare. And number five is to make health care tax-free.
Now, all of that sounds good, but let me ask you about the one biggest sticking point will be this issue with pre-existing conditions.
Right.
So you will wipe out this idea so that an insurance company doesn't have to take you if you have a pre-existing condition? Or are you going to keep that in place?
There are ways to do older children staying on parents' health care plans and pre-existing conditions and allow those provisions to move forward. Remember,
how do you do it, though, without the cost? Without insurance companies deciding to escalate the cost. The whole point of the mandate was to prevent that.
Right. And move those pre-existings back to some funds that are run by the states. And you can do that. It would work more like a workers' comp plan would work. And there are plans for doing that and having those with pre-existing conditions in risk pools, but have them handled at your state level.
They're not going to have much choice, though.
You
I mean, what you're describing is a sort of this catastrophic pool. You're going to have where people aren't going to have many choices, though, are they?
Well, let's let the market work on that. And we've got some plans that have been out there. Ways and Means has had some plans on that. Dave Camp has done some good work on these issues. Kevin Brady also. So there are plans in place. When it comes to lowering the cost of health insurance with the individual market, my legislation, which is the across state line purchase of health insurance, and allowing individuals to buy what's going to suit their needs. There are great ideas out there. We have worked on these and brought these forward. What you're going to see is what people want us to do. Start over with a clean slate and work on health care transformation so that you've got something patient-centered and something, move away from something.
It sounds, but what you're describing, we still haven't solved the biggest problem, right? Which is, what do you do with people with pre-existing conditions that don't feel like they have good choices for insurance? And it doesn't sound like you're offering an opportunity to do any better.
Chuck, I would disagree with that, because if you're lowering the cost, if you're allowing more people to get into the marketplace,
how do you know you're lowering the cost?
Because you look at competition, you look at what has happened in other arenas, you look at what's happened with other insurances. If you don't mandate
insurance companies to take people with pre-existing conditions, and then you're going to create a competition where you're basically going to have just this one catastrophic pool. One insurance company that's going to get stuck essentially with the expensive policy.
I disagree.
And you're going to have private insurance. Yeah. How do you prevent that, I guess, is what I would ask.
Well, and what you do by moving it back to the states so that you've got a race to quality. You know, what you're describing is what people always say, oh, you've got a race to the bottom. And I disagree with that. What you do is incentivize a race to quality. And what we want is for the marketplace to lead, for patients to be able to have that choice in choosing their doctor, in choosing what they're going to have as their insurance, and then focusing on getting the cost of delivery down. You know, we've got two different components of this, the health insurance side and the health care delivery side. And what we need to be doing is lowering the cost on both of those fronts. And if we go back and focus on health care transformation and look at these components that are there that we've tried to work on for years, move forward some of these ideas, opening up the insurance market, focusing on tort reform, getting rid of IPAB, working on these preventive service task forces, and bringing that under into a better platform. I think we've got some ways to do this.
It sounds just as complicated as the initial thing going through. Let me switch topics here. You're going to be dealing with potentially this contempt vote of Attorney General Eric Holder. What's the scandal here with Fast and Furious? When a constituent would come up to you and sit there and say, there seems to be a lot of, this sounds like one of the Washington chatter. What's the scandal in your mind that's behind Fast and Furious?
What we have is an American citizen, a Border Patrol agent who lost his life.
Right.
And when my constituents talk about this, and they do, they're looking at how could the federal government have allowed these guns to walk? And Chuck, this is one of those trust and integrity issues. And what they want to know is, tell us what happened.
Well, don't we know what happened? We do know what happened. That's what I don't understand here. That's what I'm confused by.
No, they don't know who said to do this, who signed off on it, exactly what was the change of command, what all happened with it. They want to know exactly what happened. It's like with Solyndra. Yeah. We hear about that with the DOE loans. Tell us what happened with this.
Do you think it's proper that the NRA, to me there's been a lot of this, NRA obviously does not like the ATF. This is not news to a lot of people. The fact that they're going to make this contempt vote, that they're going to score it, to me just sort of underscores that this has been a political fight, not a serious legislative disagreement between two branches of government. Should they be scoring this? Do you think it's proper?
I think that what people are looking at is what happened, and they want to know what happened. There are a lot of votes that get scored. There are a lot of votes that don't get scored. I wasn't aware the NRA was scoring this vote. But that isn't, that's a periphery issue.
Do you wish they weren't? Do you think it's a mistake?
No, I think that's a periphery issue. I think that what the American people are saying is we want to know that we can trust those who are put in place to protect our government. My constituents, they want to know that the individuals that are in those places are making the decisions that are going to protect America and American citizens.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee. Thanks for coming in.
Good to be with you. Thank you.